The idea that reparations to African Americans and the African diaspora could not only address historical injustices, but also benefit the wider economy is a concept supported by economic logic and some historical precedent. Here's how it could work, step by step. 1. Reparations as a stimulus, not a handout. Reparations aren't just about handing out cash. They are an economic correction for centuries of theft, forced labor, colonization, and exclusion from wealth-building systems. When money is transferred into the hands of historically marginalized people, they spend it on housing, education, health, business, and community needs. Spending generates economic activity. When reparations recipients use the money, they pay rent or buy homes, stimulating the real estate and construction industries. They buy goods and services, boosting small and large businesses, many of which are still white or European owned. They start businesses, creating new jobs, innovation, and tax revenue. They invest in education, leading to long-term increases in earnings and productivity. This activity doesn't disappear, it circulates. In fact, most of the money would go back into the existing economy, propping up the same systems that benefited from colonization. #3. Reparations could strengthen Black economic power. A portion of the funds would likely be invested in Black-owned banks, cooperatives, or investment funds, used to build infrastructure in underserved communities, directed toward creating intergenerational wealth, something African-descended people were intentionally excluded from. This not only begins to close the racial wealth gap, it also diversifies economic leadership, which is healthy for democracy and long-term stability. 4. Historical precedent. Reparations work examples where targeted economic redress helped. Japanese Americans received reparations in 1988 for WY2 internment. Those funds helped stabilize families and create new opportunities. The GI Bill helped build a white middle class after World War II, but Black veterans were largely excluded. Imagine if they weren't. Countries like Germany paid Holocaust reparations to Jewish survivors with real economic and moral benefits. #5. Long-term return on investment analyses, like those from the Brookings Institution and economists like Sandy Darity, suggest that investing in reparations could add billions to GDP, especially when Black communities are given the tools to thrive. The cost of not paying reparations, in terms of poverty, poor health, undereducation, and incarceration, is far greater than the cost of doing so. 6. A global impact. If reparations extended beyond the US to the entire African diaspora, it could strengthen African economies and Pan-African business ties, help rebuild nations still dealing with colonial extraction and IMF World Bank debt traps, shift global power dynamics toward more equity and cooperation rather than dominance and exploitation. Final thought. Reparations are not just a moral debt, they are an economic reinvestment in justice. Ironically, even the institutions that profited from slavery and colonization would likely see some short-term benefit. But the real value lies in redistributing power and dignity and creating a future where more people, not fewer, have access to prosperity. Would you like a visual infographic showing this economic cycle, or a sample policy proposal outline based on this idea?